Hello, good people. So today is the 15th Wednesday of April, and I'm heading to class right now. But an update on my thesis. So yesterday I got to go to meet my supervisors, 3 of them. We had a discussion on where I was at. I walked them through my thinking process and why I had changed what I had initially to what I have now. And things are great. So the next thing is to go to the library right now. That's where I'm headed. And ask the librarian to help me with the search terms, because there's some little bit of gray area on how I need to define the expo zone and how I need to get the search terms for that going on. So that is my major task for the day before I head for class. It's around 9:30 a.m. and class is around 10. So I'll pop up at the library, just ask for the librarian a time in which he or she is comfortable with for me to pop in and just have a good session with them to figure out my search terms. And then after that, I think that the major bottleneck will be done if I'm able to get that through, because it's only that part that I feel is a little bit of a gray area. One other important point was how I can make the scoping review a bit more innovative. So just instead of just doing a scoping review, I know scoping review, you're supposed just to look at what other people have done, but the challenge that was posed to me by one of the supervisors was how can I make it a bit more innovative. So I'm looking for ways to do that. So yeah, heading to the library, then see where the rest of the day takes me. Catch you then. So I've had a chat with them, and we've confirmed an appointment time for 2 p.m. today. So it will happen virtually, so that's good for me. That means I can go to class, then just continue with my literature review, then meet up with them at 2 p.m. and get done with that part. I think by the end of the weekend, I should be ready with the whole draft. So between now and then, just doing class and doing my social neuroscience essay, and looking at other models in this case. So yeah, let me head to class and then see you later.
Hello. So right now it's around 3:30. I've met with the librarian online. We had a chat, and I think I was able to understand the direction that I want to take, especially in the search strategy. So I think one important thing that I didn't mention is maybe why is it even important to go to the librarian in this case? And it all comes down to the search strategy. And over here, I would like to talk about something called search terms. Okay. So in this case, when you talk about search terms, what we mean is basically search queries or keywords or phrases that a user can type into a database like PubMed, Embase, and Scopus. All right. So for most scoping review, there's normally a framework in which you come up with the search terms. It's called the PCC framework, which will look at the population, concept, and context, rather than PICO. So for PICO, it's PICO or PICO, it's what we use for systematic reviews. So in this case, I give you an example. Let's say you are doing a scoping review on the uptake of telemedicine services for diabetic patients in sub-Saharan Africa. From that title alone, there are very many ways in which you can search other researchers within sub-Saharan Africa that have looked into that. So for you to be able to key in the words in the database to get what you're looking for, you need to come up with search terms. So these search terms can be either keywords or controlled vocabularies. Okay. So for the keywords, they can be words like telemedicine, telehealth, remote consultation. These are the natural language variations. Okay. And different authors can have different words meaning telemedicine. For the controlled vocabulary, however, these are like standardized indexing items. So in PubMed, we use mesh terms. We use mesh. In Embase, we use Emtree terms. So, for example, in this case, telemedicine is a mesh term. So if I want to talk about telehealth, remote consultation, they'll all fall under the telemedicine such term, mesh term. So in this case, mesh terms, they are controlled vocabulary. For example, in this case, they are used by PubMed to index articles in a consistent and standardized way. They are essentially like the clinical language of databases, in short. They provide that structure that translate the messy words that different authors use into one searchable thing. Okay, so another example here, think about when people want to talk about heart attack, myocardial infarction, high blood pressure, hypertension, and all kind of stuff. So as such, a mesh term that can assign all of this one term is myocardial infarction. So when I key myocardial infarction, it will pull for me all other research papers that have mentioned heart attack, what have you, so that I can be able to have a wider pool of articles. So yeah, that's basically it. When you're talking about such strategies, you need to figure out how you come up with the keywords, controlled vocabulary, and all that. You can by all means do it yourself, but in this case, librarians have that upper advantage because they have interacted with these databases. They know how to come up with these frameworks. They have an idea on the different mesh terms, for example, or entry terms that are needed for you to explore these databases. And most of the times you normally overlook, or you have no idea even where to begin with. So for example, in my case, where I'm looking at I'm looking at the exposome. The exposome can be both physical, social, and so on and so forth. So for example, here you can see the factors. We have air pollution, which can be either PM2.5, nitrous oxide. We have temperature, can be mean temperature, even extreme heat and all that kind of stuff. So I need to figure out what kind of search terms will I key in my search query, so that I can be able to get the relevant research papers that I need to include in my scoping review. So for me to have a better sense of that, I bounce the ideas with the librarian, and then we get to work together. Yeah, so that's everything. So yeah, I've had a conversation with her. She's working on it. Then we'll probably meet later on during the week. The week is almost over, so maybe Friday or next week on Monday, and then I will use that such strategy later on when I'm actually now doing the work. So for now on, we continue writing the proposal and see where this gets into. Great. So if again you enjoy this kind of videos, please make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and follow along. Until next time, bye bye.